Hey guys, tonight we will gently glide across the Thames, placing our weary feet onto the mystical, silent land of Tudor England. Before we begin, you won't survive this. I'm just kidding. Close your eyes for a moment, take a deep breath, and let the night breeze carry you all the way to the banks of London in 1522. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Don't forget to comment below where you're listening from and what local time it is right now. The moon hangs softly like a silver slice on a velvet sky, casting a faint glow across the languid water. The barge slowly parts each ripple, delivering Anne Boleyn, a young lady of a middling noble family, from the docks of Calais to the shores of the Thames. The salty wind carries a subtle chill, mingled with distant wisps of incense. The bells of Westminster toll in a steady rhythm, like a gentle heartbeat welcoming the stranger. On the deck, Anne gently closes her eyes, letting the cool breeze caress her dark, glossy hair. She is not the most beautiful face in the royal court, yet she carries an invisible weapon, a refined French education, eloquence in languages, and sharp intellect. Amid hundreds of shy English ladies in waiting, Anne stands like a solitary white rose in bloom, graceful, yet never timid. The Tudor palace rises across the water like a colossal castle in a dreamlike twilight. Ancient stone walls glow under flickering candles in the corridors. The clatter of wooden clogs against stone floors whispers to her, "Power awaits you, Anne." She inhales deeply, feeling the cold stone breeze press against her chest, and grips the railing. To Henry VIII, the king who spent 16 years beside Catherine of Aragon, and yet fathered only one daughter, Mary Anne is the crucial breath of fresh air. Rumours of the sharp-witted French maidens swiftly circulated through the court, prompting hushed discussions among the courtiers. She could alter the fate of an entire dynasty, they murmured. The candlelight in the ballrooms shimmered with that very hope. On her first night at court, Anne steps lightly through a heavy oak door, breathing in the scent of incense and oak. A solitary candle flickers beside the writing desk, reflecting in her eyes like stars against the night. Her heart flutters with a blend of excitement and apprehension. She knows she is no ordinary lady in waiting. She stands at the threshold of a power game. In the warm candlelight, she vows softly to herself, "I will not let fate lead me. I will make the most powerful man in England see my worth." And so, amidst the misty woods, with wind rustling the trees beyond the castle walls, Anne Boleyn takes her first steady step on the journey to Tudor lands, a slow but resolute stride that will pave the way for a destiny that changes history. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Outside the low arched windows, the night breeze rustles through pines, carrying the scent of fir and a gossamer mist. In the vast palace, sparse candlelight dances on stone walls, casting soft patterns of shadow and glow. Henry VIII sits upon his intricately carved throne, a crown of gleaming gold balanced upon his head. Beside him, a portrait of Catherine of Aragon hangs solemnly, reminding him of 16 years with a gentle queen who could not bear him a son. Far away in the green-draped chamber, Mary Boleyn, the king's former mistress, offers a subtle, knowing smile at whispered rumours. But Mary knows her influence is but a passing breeze, insufficient to alter the course of a dynasty. Then, like a billowing sail, Anne Boleyn's footsteps glide into the great hall. She carries with her the clear gaze of a foreigner, mingled with resolve and curiosity. Anne is unlike any other beauty who has crossed Henry VIII's path. She is a French rose, graceful, gentle, harbouring silent storms within. One day, word reaches the king that Anne has been betrothed to Henry Percy, the celebrated Northern lord. Without delay, he issues a royal decree annulling the engagement, forcing Percy to marry another. As the parchment is torn, the palace resonates with the echo of change, a barrier drawn between past and present, between power and aspiration. From that moment, the pursuit begins. Lavish evening feasts, the gentle strum of lutes in the hall, and masked dances that glide slowly by all form the stage for a psychological game. Anne adorns herself in a gown of deep sapphire silk, its lace edges flickering in candlelight, rendering her an ethereal vision within a dream. Henry VIII sends Anne letters redolent with warmth, each opening an invitation to conquest. He speaks of a love arrow, the pointed force of power and ambition aimed straight at the lady's heart. The words curve like gentle rain, but carry the iron weight of the throne. Anne reads the letters and smiles quietly. She knows the stakes of this game. Acceptance means surrender. Refusal means defiance of royal might. In that moment, she retreats to the secret garden walls, where late-blooming white roses exhale a faint fragrance like the night's soft whisper. In the ensuing silence, darkness deepens its reach. Anne clasps the letter, her gaze following dewdrops drifting on petals. She listens to the soft sound of leaves falling in the breeze, a heartbeat steady amidst the storm. The next morning, the court buzzes anew. Courtiers whisper, awaiting the future queen's reaction. Mary Boleyn retreats into shadow, marvelling at Anne's composure. Catherine of Aragon, though consigned to history, still lingers in every royal decree. Anne steps onto the mosaic courtyard, morning mist clinging to the cold stones. She strolls deliberately, fingers brushing the old carvings. Each ornate Tudor carving seems to recount the passage of time, inviting her to pen a new chapter. Our heroine, Anne Boleyn, the French girl carrying western sun and wind, maintains her steady gaze. Under the rosy dawn, she watches the river hurry by, realizing that life here is not merely a labyrinth of etiquette, but a current of dreams and power. And in that tranquil moment, let your spirit merge with the ancient air, hear the distant echo of wooden clogs, and prepare for the hidden truths that lie within the heart of the Tudor palace. The dawn light creeps softly through the stone window, draping the castle corridors in a pale rose blanket, as gentle as a morning breath. The sparrow's soft chattering on the tiles blends with the distant toll of the valley bell, creating a lullaby for the awakening dream. In this world, the sturdy oak gates stand slightly ajar, opening onto a realm where each brick holds the echoes of a royal struggle. On a misty autumn afternoon in 1527, when raindrops clung heavily to the slate rooftops, Henry VIII resolved to end his 18-year union with Catherine, citing the charge of marrying his brother's widow. The decree resonated like a headline, breaking divorce in our late-night news drama fit for a modern tabloid. Unable to secure an annulment from the Holy See, he simply proclaimed himself head of the English Church, a twist so bold it left all of Europe in astonished silence. In the hush of a candle-lit study, Anne Boleyn quietly placed books and pamphlets into the eager hands of priests and scholars. She did not appear amidst the grand fanfare. Instead, she sparked the flames of the English Reformation through whispers translating sacred texts into the common tongue and sharing ideas of royal supremacy. Each flickering candle, breathing warmth into the parchment, seemed to kindle a new faith in the realm subtle, yet seeping into every mind. That secret marriage in Dover of 1532 unfolded like a soft watercolour. Several golden candles upon a simple wooden table, the lull of waves beyond the cliffs, and the hushed footsteps of a trusted few. No fanfare of trumpets, no grand procession, just two hands clasped in the glow of candlelight. Legend holds that Anne hummed a line of a French folk song, her voice a whisper in the twilight, while Henry smiled, his eyes sparkling like the first light of dawn. Yet this union found no formal place in canon law or Roman records. It existed as a beautiful, fragile secret. Weeks later, Anne discovered she carried the king's child. Before the joyous drums could sound, she lay awake in the night, attuned to her own heartbeat. The weight of status, religious scrutiny, and legal constraints settled upon her like invisible armor. But imagine, if you will, breathing in that moment as though inhaling a crisp breeze through the willow grove outside her chamber, and realize that even in dreams, great responsibility must be faced. Now the palace's usual symphony had become a hush of courtly whispers. Will she bear the prince? This question echoed like a rerun of a popular series, night after night. But Anne did not rush. She retreated to the garden by the brook where late-blooming lilies unfurled their white petals, delicate reminders to be patient. The willow leaves whispered in the breeze, stirring dew into a gentle, rhythmic patter against the ear. And then, in that still moment, Anne closed her eyes, as if inviting a modern audience to share the reverie. Amid the world's clamour and spectacle, there remains the light of conviction and the power of serenity. Whether history credits or vilifies her, the volumes she passed hand to hand rest on a shelf somewhere, waiting for a lover of quiet courage to open their pages with gentle hands. Dawn of 1533 slipped through the grand oak canopy, painting the castle stone in soft pink hues, as gentle as a spring breath. The air was so calm, one could sense their own heartbeat, steady, rhythmic, a bridge between then and now. On the palace forecourt, rows of wooden benches lined the path, draped in deep crimson velvet like the heartbeat of ceremony itself. Crowds gathered at the base of the statue, moving slowly, each face reflecting a flicker of hope, the emergence of a new queen. Farther off, flickering votive candles of emerald and ruby glowed like a miniature galaxy, guiding the way toward power. The eve of her coronation had been a spectacle of light. Thousands of candles stacked on stone pedestals, their flames dancing over the gold silks of the handmaidens, turning every fabric into a dreamlike shimmer. A harpsichord melody drifted through doorways, mingling with hushed whispers of untold tales. They said candlelight not only dispelled darkness but stirred the soul, awakening hidden longings. When Anne Boleyn emerged in her rose-tinged silk robe embroidered in silver, every sound seemed to pause in awe. She offered a soft smile, a silent song amid the waking world. The oak leaves shivered. Sparrows perched on the tiled eaves watched in silence, and the morning mist embraced her form like a delicate veil. The public regarded Anne with equal parts admiration and wariness. Catherine of Aragon, Henry's gentle wife of 18 years, had not easily relinquished her place in their hearts. This tension was akin to updating one's phone OS, excited for new features, yet anxious for the inevitable bugs that follow. The distant clatter of hooves and the cautious creak of guards announced the king's arrival. Henry VIII appeared in ceremonial armour, gold glinting under the rising sun, as though he himself were a second dawn. He bowed to his new queen, then led her up the steps. Each footstep echoed like a drumbeat of triumph, notes of faith and burden intertwined. The great bells of the chapel pealed in solemn harmony. A spring breeze carried the scent of late-blooming almonds, and cherry blossoms drifted onto Anne's train time's gentle reminder that glory is transient, leaving only quiet memory. Youths in the crowd giggled. She must brace herself for sleepless nights beneath all that pressure. Yet Anne remained composed as her vows spilled forth, to protect the realm, uphold peace, and safeguard her people's trust. Her words echoed like both the breath of justice and a lullaby for attentive ears. Applause and cheers filled the air, yet that joy was as fragile as dawn's morning dew. By September of the same year, Anne gave birth to Princess Elizabeth. In her private chamber, illuminated by a few warm candles and soft harpsichord notes, the newborn's cry heralded what should have been triumph. The moonlight slipped through an arched window, caressing Anne's tired yet radiant face like a nocturnal bloom. Still, the momentary bliss quickly faded. Henry, yearning for a son, quipped, "A lovely flower, but a kingdom needs swords." Silence settled over the court like a sea after the storm. Even the harpsichord's gentle notes seemed to sigh, each keystroke whispering, "Worth is not measured in gender." Anne sat by the window, hand on her empty womb, listening to ivy rustle in the wind. She recalled French gardens where lavender lined every path, lending serenity like a lullaby. Now lavender grew within the palace grounds, yet its scent could not banish her fears. Each fallen petal seemed to murmur, "Waiting is its own kind of courage." Despite the harsh reality, Anne smiled softly. In today's world, people still bear invisible expectations from academic grades to social media likes. Yet life is more than numbers. She inhaled deeply, letting her breath fill the ancient chamber, realizing that every life, male or female, holds its own worth. Twilight draped the day in mauve and rose. Westminster's evening bells tolled once more, a closing refrain to a ceremony both splendid and dreamlike. Anne stood on the coronation square, reaching out to catch the final rays of light, as if capturing a moment of peace amid the undercurrents of power. The sunset painted London's sky in soft purple hues, as the last rays danced across the Thames like a fragile ribbon. The gentle lapping of the water against the boat's side felt like a lullaby, its rhythm mirroring a calm breath before sleep. Inside the Tudor palace, red-tiled roofs and grey stones wove shadows of dusk into a scene both tranquil and tinged with sorrow. At the end of 1534, when yellow leaves drifted sparsely along the corridors, Anne Boleyn felt a fleeting pang, an unmistakable sign of loss. A queen's miscarriage was hardly rare in the 16th century, yet this time, that pain seemed to fracture the palace's chill even more. The candles in her chamber swayed like they were sighing, casting wavering light against the walls as if whispering, "Try again," softly. Court rumours spread as subtly as the dusk's creeping shadows. Council meetings thinned out, and hushed conversations in the peony garden carried a wary tone. Courtiers slipped behind pillars, exchanging glances of mixed curiosity and apprehension. Had Henry VIII grown weary of his new wife? Had Anne's chance to bear an heir slipped away forever? Suspicion drifted like a cool autumn mist. Seeking solace, Anne retreated to the quiet library, where the soft glow of a few candles mingled with the faint lantern light. She gently laid out translated scriptures and reform treatises on the table, hoping to spark fresh winds of faith among the clergy. In that hush, the turning of each page sounded like a courageous heartbeat, an echo of her own, still fluttering despite the ache within. She reminded herself, if a mother cannot birth a child now, let her at least birth hope for many. Yet Henry VIII turned his attention elsewhere. The gentle Jane Seymour, with her discreet poise, began to appear more at banquets. Candlelight caught in her clear eyes, offering a soft invitation. Meanwhile, Anne strove for composure, though her heart cracked a little each time Jane's name echoed through the halls. Music, ever present in the Tudor court, swelled anew. Lutes and harpsichords echoed longer, though for an audience who seemed to care less. At evening feasts, silken skirts drifted past glowing candles, laughter mingling with concealed loneliness. Moonbeams snuck through tall windows, skimming the wooden floors with silvery paths, silent reminders that even in splendor, darkness lingers. Amid the lavish gatherings, Anne often slipped out to the rear garden, where rose bushes blossomed in quiet defiance. Their fragrance floated softly in the air, a gentle solace. She would sit on a worn stone bench, close her eyes, and inhale deeply, letting her breath blend with the rustling leaves. There, she was no queen, just a woman nursing quiet wounds. In our modern world, we too face invisible expectations from academic grades to social media likes. Failures often feel like full stops. But Anne, for all her royal title, was human, cradling hopes and heartbreaks like anyone. She offered a wry smile to herself. No medal for mistakes, but motivation waits for the next time. Under the night sky, as the soft scrape of a broom swept leaves outside the corridors, Anne returned to her chamber. Her gaze fell upon Catherine of Aragon's portrait, a gentle queen bound to Henry VIII for 18 years, now a mourning echo on the wall. Candle flames danced across the frame as if to remind her, every tale holds many chapters. Do not close the book too soon. And so Anne's story flowed on like a ceaseless river. Beneath the pale moon, wind whispered through weeping willows, composing a lullaby for the night. Doubt and waiting dissolved into the slow, warm cadence of breath in the quiet dark. The candle, in the empty chamber, flickered softly, casting shifting patches of light and shadow like a heart in turmoil. Outside the ebony window frame, the northerly breeze swept through the ancient oaks, carrying a chill that whispered against the stones. Each breath Anne Boleyn drew in that moonless night felt like a morning song, slow, steady, laced with fragile hope. Late in 1534, when the season's first snow had not yet blanketed the rooftops, Anne felt a sharp internal crack, the unmistakable sign of life slipping away. That loss was more than physical pain. It echoed an invisible curse. Must I fail as a mother again? The bedroom lay still, save for the dying wax and her quiet breaths, bridging doubt and longing. Henry VIII, once captivated by Anne's keen gaze, now watched only the gentle figure in the courtyard, Jane Seymour. Jealousy crept like a freezing north wind down the stone hallways, fracturing Anne's spirit. Rumours in the court rippled like soft waves, growing louder. A queen who bears no son is unfit for the throne. Council meetings thinned out, punctuated by the whisper of papers and hushed gossip. Yet Anne would not despair. She sought solace in the wild rose garden beyond the city walls, where untended blooms bowed before the breeze. The rustle of leaves at her ear spoke comfort. Every fallen petal reveals a new hope. There she convened scholars to discuss church reform, sparking fresh currents in England's spiritual life. Dawn's pale light filtered through the rose thickets, painting a tranquil scene that momentarily banished her inner darkness. But human hearts are unpredictable. Gradually, Henry's letters to Anne grew formal and cold, stripped of hearts and roses. In his final winter missive, he wrote simply, "I wish you a peaceful spring," before asking Jane's hand in marriage. The harsh lines on the parchment were like frost itself, reminding Anne that she had lost her place in the dance of power. The palace buzzed with music and celebration, but the melodies felt discordant. The grand hall's candles sought to preserve splendor, yet as their flames waned, shadows crept across every stone. Anne felt each shard of fading light like fragments of broken glass glittering under oil lamps drifting down at her feet. You might compare it to modern relationships, where an unanswered text quietly becomes silence, and one knows they have been left behind. That was Anne's realization in the still of night. She cherished the silence, for sometimes quiet is the clearest voice of all. In the hushed corridors, Anne sank into a velvet armchair, gazing at the melting wax in its silver candlestick. The warmth spread, yet could not banish the chill. She closed her eyes, envisioning the gentle lapping of waves against the shore, a heartbeat steady and sure. A few nights later, Anne gathered clergymen in the castle library, lantern light dancing across shelves of ancient tomes. She listened to the soft rustle of pages and spoke of royal supremacy and public faith, conducting the conversation like a symphony. Each shared idea fell like raindrops on parched earth, reviving hope, even if only a small spring of it. During those discussions, Anne allowed herself a quiet smile, her eyes alight with resolve. She knew she could not entirely escape fate, but could kindle a new flame for others. It was the gentle hand placed upon a friend's shoulder in sorrow, a candle's warm glow guiding through the storm. At last, she returned to her chamber beneath a velvet sky. Moonlight filtered through burgundy drapes, painting the floor with silver ribbons. Seated at her small brass mirror, she regarded her weary yet steadfast reflection. Each breath passed slowly into the still air, a lullaby fit for a queen. Every tale of triumph or tragedy holds moments of silent grace. Amid fading candles and tangled thoughts, Anne Boleyn preserved her spark of hope. Her story would continue, unwritten lines beneath the dawn's breeze, inviting weary souls into gentle dreams. Morning mist peeked through the marble-arched window, tracing thin silver lines on the palace walls. Spring of 1535 brought drizzle and fresh leaves. Yet Anne Boleyn's heart remained as heavy as the overcast sky. The distant chime of Westminster's bell echoed like the heartbeat of an awakening yet anxious dynasty. Jane Seymour, with her gentle smile and clear gaze, seemed to greet the new day from another casement, where faint sunlight filtered through stained glass. This contrast Anne's shadowed introspection and Jane's bright presence drew Anne deeper into political manoeuvring. Al fresco tea gatherings, where the night's mist clung to warm cups, became moments for Anne to meet with reformist scholars. The soft sips of tea felt like lullabies, woven with discussions of royal supremacy, creating a cozy refuge amid courtly storms. On one new moon night, when the moon's glow was but a faint silver thread in the grey sky, Anne held a silent gathering beneath the weeping willow in the great hall courtyard. Dew collected on each slender leaf, whispering encouragement. Power must pair with wisdom. She invited forward, thinking clergy and academics, to debate the king's potential role as supreme head of the English Church, free from papal authority. The gentle tap of walking sticks on damp stone set the rhythm for her words, soft yet profound. By the warm glow of oil lamps, Anne envisioned a new religious structure, one in which priests and common folk walked in harmony, peaceful as ocean waves breaking on a moonlit shore. She shared tales of rural French priories, nestled among lavender fields, where monks and villagers shared nourishing meals of bread and broth. Such little-known facts of those small communities had sparked early reform ideas, leading Anne to believe England too could cultivate such harmony. Yet rumours of these clandestine meetings reached Henry VIII through the whispers of courtiers. He raised an eyebrow, musing, "The Queen grows bold beyond measure." In her formal portrait in the audience chamber, Anne's proud stance seemed defiant, breeding suspicion in the king's mind. Quiet adversaries waited in the wings, eager to brand her overreaching if she persisted in political involvement. Amid this silent game, Anne sought solace in the lily garden before the palace gate. White petals unfurled beneath morning dew, like tiny beacons of renewal. Sparrows chirped among the winding willow branches. Footsteps on worn stone laid a gentle melody. She perched on a moss-flecked bench, opened her tattered leather journal, and penned theories on religious freedom. Each line served as a small sacred text, placed upon the heart of every reader, nurturing faith and the desire for change. All around her, the world seemed to slow. The breeze softly caressed the grass. Floral perfumes drifted through the cool air, and dawn's light filtered down in jade-green patches. Nature's symphony guided her spirit to stillness, quieting the clamour of ambition. In modern times, one might liken these secret councils to future design brainstorms, where leaders and experts convene over steaming coffees. The atmosphere, filled with hope and a touch of apprehension, often begins with a gentle phrase, "Let's embark on this journey together." Despite centuries of difference, the essence of discreet collaboration endures. At a confidential meeting, Anne emphasized, "Belief cannot be forced, it must grow within each heart." Her voice, hushed yet resonant, seemed to carry through an empty hall, compelling every listener to nod in quiet agreement. Yet as they departed, Anne lingered, pacing between columns of cool marble, as if imprinting her resolve on every surface. Late that night, under a moon hidden by drifting clouds, the palace lay silent. Anne stood at a high casement, gazing at the Thames' silver gleam beneath dim stars. The gentle ebb of water offered a wordless lullaby to her soul. She whispered to herself, "Though storms rage beyond these walls, peace remains in quiet corners." In that moment, Anne felt a humble strength, not from titles or power, but from perseverance and compassion. Her unseen story would continue, scripted softly on parchment and spreading like candlelight through the dark. Rumours might betray, the king may doubt, yet Anne's spirit stood resolute, like the ancient willow in the courtyard, flexible, yet unbroken. Morning's pale light of 1636 filtered through ancient oak branches, scattering soft pools of illumination on the cobblestone courtyard. Mist clung like a thin blanket over the palace, and the toll of funeral trumpets from the chapel echoed solemn, unbroken, as though insisting that an era had ended with Catherine of Aragon's passing. As her final breath drifted away on the cold breeze, all eyes within the Tudor walls turned to Anne Boleyn. She emerged into the palace courtyard with dignified composure, wearing a gown of ashen velvet that absorbed the quiet light. In her hand, she cradled a bouquet of daffodils, delicate blooms of pale gold, symbolizing purity and rebirth, standing out vibrantly against the grey mists. The trumpets played on, casting Anne between two realms, one of a closed past, and another of uncertain whispers that heralded her future. Rumours began to spread like ripples across still water. Thomas Cromwell, now Henry's chief minister, methodically gathered evidence to bring Anne down. In the warm, lamplit confines of his chamber, he arranged journals of private meetings with reformist clergy and intimate letters exchanged with confidants into a hidden drawer. Innocent notes once meant to capture earnest discussion were twisted into proof of treasonous plots and betrayal of royal blood. Few realized that in the 16th century, putting political discourse to paper was as daring and as dangerous as leaked emails in our modern era. The official indictment was drafted under a flickering lamp in a sealed room, where Cromwell's conspirators watched the red wax seal break like a heart cracking. The cold draft of the corridor gusted in, carrying a chill as sharp as a dagger's point. This summons to trial arrived just as Anne believed herself at the zenith of triumph. The soft snap of wax felt like destiny's decree, impossible to ignore. One unannounced midday, as stained glass windows cast dappled colour across polished floors, Anne heard the startled rhythm of horses' hooves in the inner court. The clink of shackles echoed on the flagstones, a dissonant punctuation to the hushed gossip trailing her steps. She was led from her chambers under escort wooden clogs, tapping a measured march along grand corridors. The scent of leather, pine wood, and iron mingled in the chill air, pressing in on her with the weight of inevitable fate. Her carriage, an ornate wooden coach carved with fleur-de-lis, rumbled along the roadway beyond the palace gates. 24 purple-robed officials flanked her, their solemn silence as heavy as armour. The mist peeled back to reveal the cobblestone avenue leading toward the Tower of London, its formidable silhouette looming like a prison of stone and shadows. Inside the coach, Anne inhaled the faint tang of damp wood and candle soot, steeling herself against the murmured speculations of onlookers who treated her downfall like the latest sensational headline. At the tower, the Thames wind cut through the air like a blade as it rushed past the battlements. Grey light spilled across moss-covered stones, turning walls into shifting shadows. Anne, shrouded in a charcoal cloak, stood in the courtyard, calm and upright, her eyes clear even as destiny's pageant unfolded around her. Footsteps echoed beneath the vaulted walkways, the hushed voices of her jailers slipping through the gloom. Outside polls may swell with trending gossip, but inside these walls, every word felt like a hammer stroke on her spirit. Days later, 5 charges swirled relentlessly in Anne's mind: adultery, treason, and even incest with her own brother. Each accusation fell like a crisp autumn leaf in a swirling vortex, fragmented, uncertain, yet potent enough to sow doubt in any heart. She closed her eyes, letting the distant roar of the living river, the same river that carried laden barges to London, fill her ears. Truth will dawn anew. The water's gentle lapping against stone was both a lament and a lullaby, promising that hidden truths might yet surface. Outside, the court rang with speculation faster than today's viral posts. Everyone spoke of secret gatherings and loyalty turned to ash. Few paused to consider that the very parchment, once inscribed by candlelight with hope, had become the instrument of her undoing. Amid flickering torchlight and whispering walls, Anne whispered to herself, "They may judge me, but my soul remains my own." As night fell, palace sound faded to silence. In her narrow cell, the only music was her own steady breathing and the occasional drip of water from mossy stone. She lifted her gaze to the tiny barred window, where a glimpse of Thames lights sparkled like distant lanterns on a dark sea. Shadows drifted along like drifting dreams, inviting her spirit to join their endless flow. This fleeting drama, so at odds with her aspirations, carried moments of a quiet smile. In Anne's eyes, the daffodils she once held, though dulled by cold, could yet herald another spring. After every shock in our modern lives, we too learn to rise once more, to pen fresh chapters in our own unfolding stories. Morning mist clung to the tower's battlements in late April 1636, forming a delicate veil between Anne Boleyn and the world. Soft drizzle tapped the stone windows, tracing small rivulets like hopes that vanish before fully forming. Standing before the cold scaffold, Anne felt her breath join the long sigh of the air, slow, even, filled with pride, yet steeped in deep sadness. 26 nobles in solemn attire sat in a ring around the scaffold, their faces as cold as marble beneath the soaring Gothic vaults. Candlelight flickered across their white beards and dark velvet robes. The gentle tap of paper upon the judging desk echoed in the hush like the heartbeat of justice, calm yet unyielding. Witnesses filed in, their voices trembling as coerced testimonies interwove with nervous steps. They recounted private meetings with reformist clergy and letters exchanged with friends, twisting earnest discourse into accusations of treason and betrayal of royal blood. Those whispered depositions cut into the reputation Anne had built over countless moonlit nights. The quiet murmur felt akin to the droning hum of bureaucracy in a modern newsroom, reminding everyone that process can overshadow truth. Anne stood tall, her gaze as sharp as tempered steel, yet not devoid of feeling. She heard her heart's steady rhythm echo a distant sea chant, Keep your heart pure, even as storms roar. She denied each charge calmly, her voice a harp's resonance in the silent hall. Yet, despite her defiance, the verdict rang out with somber finality. Guilty. For an instant, her heart paused.
I am so sorry.
A single tear escaped down her cheek beneath the stone vault, glinting beside the dying wax of a nearby candle. Only her formal portrait, frozen in timeless splendor, bore silent witness to history's cruel irony. Gothic columns cast long shadows like invisible blades overhead. Anne was led between rows of guards, each footstep hammering her spirit. The clatter of iron-soled boots on stone felt like nails sealing fate's decree. Yet she held her posture erect, her head held high. On the eve of her execution, she received back the wilted daffodils she once carried. Their faint scent offered a last comfort. Though the body may fall, the spirit stands proud. Gently she inhaled the fragile blooms, recalling misty mornings by the riverbank, sweet memories in the face of finality. Seated by flickering candlelight in her small cell, Anne penned a letter to her daughter Elizabeth. Each stroke of quill on parchment rang like a lullaby, offering simple guidance: live kindly, nurture inner freedom, remember a mother's love always. Her flowing script was a soothing melody in the silent dark. The palace, once vibrant with triumphal music, now lay hushed. The grand hall's candles lay extinguished, leaving cold stone floors. Outside, the court buzzed with scandal as claimed and retweeted gossip. But within the tower's walls, time slowed, echoing the Thames' calm flow. Just before dawn, Anne closed her eyes. She envisioned the waves' soft cadence, tasted the sea breeze's brine. Moonlight slipped through narrow bars, a silver diadem crowning her dark tresses. Accusations and sorrow melted into the stillness, leaving a serene peace to cradle her heart. Her breath eased into a wordless lullaby. Even in that final hour, Anne Boleyn upheld her dignity and compassion. Though history recorded this darkest day, her spirit soared free like a proud daffodil, facing its last tempest with unbowed grace. The morning mist of 1536 draped gently over the Tower of London's rooftop, painting a dreamlike tableau at sunrise. Soft light filtered through the iron bars, while pale rose clouds drifted across a sky awakening today. Anne Boleyn, clad in ash-grey robes weathered by fate, ascended the execution platform with deliberate, measured steps. She felt the cold stone beneath her feet, an ancient breath exhaled by centuries of history. Chirping sparrows in the early summer air furnished a lullaby to the new day, echoing against the mossy walls. In that unusual stillness, only the Thames' subtle ripple could be heard, water flowing gently far below, its rhythm a tender heartbeat of the river. Anne's breath mingled with the briny breeze drifting inland, carrying a final oceanic farewell before her destiny's bell tolled. She paused, lowering her head in a silent prayer, eyes closed in serene resignation. Upon the granite slab before her, a single dewdrop clung, shimmering like a sacred gem holding her final invocation. May God witness my steadfast heart. In that moment, she was like a blossom unfurling in the dawn, fragile yet resolved. A gentle wind wafted through an opening in the battlements, bearing the scent of distant seas and the cry of gulls overhead. It felt like nature's very own benediction, reminding all that even in the darkest hour, light endures. In the hush, one sensed the whispered echoes of Tudor spirits, hidden behind each weathered stone. Anne opened her eyes to the Thames' silver glimmer in the sunrise. The river ever-flowing carried away past sufferings, quietly urging life to continue. She held on to the belief that, like the water's course, truth and wisdom would carve paths through obstacles and foam. In a flash, the executioner's gleaming steel arced through the air, severing flesh but sparing the indomitable soul. The cold blade could not reach her dreams, her convictions, nor the legacy she had woven through whispered halls. Anne's story reverberated like a timeless symphony amid the Tudor mist, an ethereal lullaby for restless nights, affirming truth, justice, and reason withstand every tempest. In the days that followed, as evening fell over the Thames, Her portrait appeared in woodcut prints, and a violet-stained handkerchief emerged as a symbol of unwavering fidelity. Jane Seymour, who ascended in her place, could not entirely erase Anne's imprint on the court's heart. Outside, gossip coursed through the populace like viral headlines, perpetuating her saga of courage and sacrifice. Few recall that the delicate handkerchief, still faintly redolent of daffodil scent, became a token of steadfast hope. In dusty archives, Anne's handwritten treatises on religious reform are treasured like hidden treasures, testaments to her dream of a more just realm. Much like confidential digital files shared in modern networks, her true vision lay concealed beneath the surface. On nights of full moon, moonbeams danced across the Thames' gentle waves, and Anne's tale was recounted in hushed tones, of fog-kissed dawns, of daffodil purity, of prayer echoing in sea-swept wind. Her legacy, though, forged in tragedy, endures as an ode to justice and intellect, promising that despite every storm, glimmers of hope remain. Let your spirit transform into the calm river at first light, listening to history's final lullaby. Truth, justice, and reason, though battered, never fade. As you close your eyes tonight, remember each breath is a song, each silence a comforting whisper, and every dream a pathway toward dawn. A pale dawn mist still clung to the Tudor palace rooftops as Jane Seymour, the ninth Queen, stepped into the great hall, bathed in soft rose light. The sky slowly shifted from lavender to blush pink, like silken curtains drawing aside for a new day. A delicate haze drifted beneath her steps, creating the illusion of a spring garden hidden among ancient stone towers. Jane moved with measured grace across the marble floor patterned with heraldic emblems, her fingers brushing the cool, smooth railing. Dawn's gentle light filtered through stained glass, painting gentle hues across her cheeks. Her pale rose silk gown fluttered with each step, reminiscent of cherry blossoms unfurling at dawn. A breeze rustled the great oaks overhead, as though a secret orchestra whispered welcome to the new queen. Henry VIII, once known for his harsh decree, had replaced his thunderous roar with a warm, quiet murmur. He adjusted his gold circlet, its gleam softened by the morning glow. When his gaze met Jane's, the hardness of old gave way to rare tenderness. His words fell like low notes in a palace symphony, colouring the tapestry of royal life with newfound calm. Yet in Jane's gentle eyes lingered a trace of worry. The Tudor throne, though splendid, bore weight as fierce as any storm. Shadowed mists of previous reigns still clung to the ramparts, reminding her that every crown carries burdens. She inhaled softly, merging her breath with the crisp spring air, grounding herself in the present moment. Life at court resumed its steady rhythm. Church bells pealed across the morning mist, their sonorous tones a promise of renewal, banishing the dark shadows of the past. In the rose gardens behind the palace, sparrows chirped merrily among the budding blooms and jasmine vines, a serenade for a fresh start. Harpsichords in the royal chamber softly played a new ballad, weaving harmony with the dawn chorus. In modern terms, this felt like rolling out a new software update, familiar features refreshed, accompanied by the gentle caution of users awaiting patches. Jane, like a sleek new interface, offered hope and also cautious appraisal from those nostalgic for Anne's bold designs. Few recall that Jane Seymour became the sole Tudor queen to die in the joy of motherhood. After bearing the heir Prince Edward, she smiled at a moment of happiness before succumbing to the rigours of childbirth. Her quiet sacrifice is recorded not with fanfare, but in hushed notes among old chroniclers, marking a poignant finale to Tudor's trials. Inside the grand hall, nobles gathered to present congratulatory letters and recite odes in embroidered scrolls. Candlelight flickered across carved wooden panels, each portrait of former monarchs reminding onlookers, though faces change, the soul of the realm endures. The gentle ripple of paper on oak tables recorded new oaths, pledges for a reign shaped by compassion as much as by might. When evening fell, the palace corridors glowed with lantern light. Jane lit rows of brass lamps along the parapets, casting a warm aura that banished the chill of stone. That glow spoke of sanctuary, proof that the throne, though precarious, could shelter tender hearts. Outside the ramparts, the River Thames murmured under twilight skies, horse-drawn carriages trundling across cobbled streets. Londoners drifting in narrow barges savoured the calm waterside air, choosing serenity over courtly storms. They shared fresh whispers of palace intrigue. Did you know Jane secretly gifted the king a handwritten tome on humility and grace, like quiet updates on modern social feeds? On the eve of the new year, courtiers gathered at windows overlooking the bridge, aflame with torchlight. Jane and Henry sighed in unison, aware that kingdoms shift, but history's march continues. The court musicians slowed their tune to a lullaby pace, inviting every soul to find stillness and hope amid the long night's breath. The Tudor palace brimmed with floral scents and joyous laughter when Jane Seymour welcomed Prince Edward into the world. Yet within those same ancient walls, a different resonance lingered. Dawn's gentle light bathed the great hall in rose and gold drapery, mingling with scattered blooms of rose and violet carried on a soft breeze. Trumpets and flutes wove an uplifting fanfare of new life, each note floating into the hearts of the court. But behind thick stone archives and beneath vaulted ceilings, a different story whispered through corridors. In the early hours, when windows shuttered and corridors fell silent, the Thames wind would hiss through slits in the masonry, echoing against the hulls of moored barges. Servants spoke in hushed tones of a pale grey figure. Anne Boleyn's ghost seemed drifting through candlelit passageways, her gown the colour of smoke. On some nights, a lone grand piano key was heard, tolling a slow lament to restless spirits. Such rumours spread through the court as swiftly as tweets today, a rumour thread that lent new meaning to each echoing footstep. The hush of gossip piled upon chipped floor tiles, a restless hum that no perfumed chamber could entirely mask. Yet the stones themselves, worn by decades of triumph and tragedy, remained steadfast reminders of past wrongs, their cold surfaces holding stains no lavender could erase. Amidst the celebration of royal birth, Queen Jane envisioned a riverside park, a place where children could play among flowers wild and free. Let laughter be the new breath, she urged, and indeed, she planted white lilies along the palisade, hoping their purity would drive out residual sorrow. Yet as petals drifted to the cobblestones, they whispered, "Power and affection, if not balanced, cut like a double-edged blade." Surprisingly, in Tudor London, hushed office gossip need only travel a few whispers to spark scandal, much like a midnight alert email in our digital age. In some quarters, the nighttime winds carried chilling speculation. Who among the living court was truly safe from suspicion? Through it all, Jane maintained a gentle smile. By lantern light each dusk, she placed a single light on every balcony, its pale glow beckoning lost souls toward peace. Anne's once cherished daffodils, now fragile and wilted, hung in the chapel tokens of enduring warmth that even the cold Thames air could not extinguish. Once, when morning's brilliance broke through stained glass, Jane paused in the great hall before Anne's portrait. She poured jasmine tea into a delicate porcelain cup and set it before the painting, murmuring, "May you find rest now, dear sister." The soft pour echoed like a river's current, washing away sorrow while leaving behind a gentle echo of comfort. Thus Tudor endured, weaving light and shade, laughter and lament within its storied halls. Anne's shadow drifted perpetually through its stones, a reminder that ambition, fame, and love, if unchecked, can return as sharp as any blade. Yet even amid such spectral memories, hope glimmered born of resilient hearts, of lilies that bloom in morning mist pure, enduring, and softly perfumed with promise. The early summer mist of 1537 drifted lightly over the Tudor palace rooftops, painting the dawn sky in soft lavender hues. Beneath the silent archway where Anne Boleyn once sought solace, Princess Elizabeth now emerged like a new moon ascending through the night. In the rose garden beyond the palace walls, Elizabeth listened as a court singer's gentle melody drifted from the listening hall, her small footsteps cradled by each note. The harmonies of lute and harpsichord mingled with sparrow songs at dawn, creating a dreamy symphony to cradle a young princess's childhood. Under the rustling willow, Elizabeth was raised by stories of her late mother. Anne's own quest for peace amidst blossoms and ocean breezes was woven into every petal that bore her name. Each evening, as twilight fell, Elizabeth would stand by a window, attuned to the Pacific waves echoing across a distant map on the wall, an almost modern metaphor bridging oceans and eras. The ancient chart displayed coastline cracks like the footprints of history's tides, reminding Elizabeth that the world stretched far beyond her palace. She imagined steering the nation toward a luminous age, her heart drawn to the wild surge of waves charted in ink centuries before. As sunset's gold gave way to moonlit silver, Elizabeth's silhouette in the arched window became a beacon of hope. Roses in the garden burst into bloom at her touch, petals drifting onto the stone sills, gentle reminders that sorrowful pasts can indeed sow seeds of new life. Court whispers carried modern humour among palace staff. Anne's ghost must be double-tapping Jane's social feed tonight, they joked in hushed tones. Such playful quips underscored how memories, like online posts, flickered alive before fading, connecting past to present with a wink across time. Elizabeth's tutors, midwives and clergy alike taught her the art of steady breathing in joy and sorrow. Dew-laden rose petals melting between her fingers became lessons in impermanence and grace. Each dawn, when first light brushed the rose fence, she breathed in that subtle warmth, as though her mother's spirit whispered, "Be brave, my child." Tudor court rituals continued with solemn precision. Hours echoed with the beat of drums, court notices akin to modern calendar alerts. Yet Elizabeth, eager for reform, would remind ministers, "Power serves best when it is gentle." Her words spread through corridors like an inspiring tweet, softening the austere chill of protocol. Few recall that a French duchess once gave Anne a sprig of orange blossom, symbol of hope and tranquility. Elizabeth upheld this custom, planting a small orange tree by the palace hearth, its blossoms perfuming morning air. She plucked a ripe fruit at dawn, placing it on her writing desk as a gift to her mother's memory. Sunlight spilled across the rose garden, each petal aglow with dew like tiny crystals. The rustle of silk curtains accompanied the rise of the day breeze. Elizabeth inhaled deeply, letting her breath merge with the morning's gentle rhythm, a lullaby for any soul drifting into peaceful sleep with this tale. Under the pale new moon, the shadows of Anne and Jane seemed to entwine, one past fraught with tragedy, one present glowing with promise. Elizabeth stood between them like a bridge, her dark eyes shimmering with resolve, and with each breath, she whispered to herself, "Truth, justice and reason, through every trial and triumph, endure forever." When the night falls and the sky drapes itself in deep velvet blue, close your eyes, take a slow, deep breath, and listen to the breeze as it wanders through the rose garden. The world's breath becomes a soft symphony, blending with the whisper of leaves and the faint perfume of petals. The story of Anne Boleyn, from her first step aboard the Thames barge to her whispered prayer under a moonlit sky, resonates within every breath of nature. Beneath the night's canopy, each rose leaf drifting onto the stone path feels like the final notes of a lullaby. The gentle rustle beside your ear reminds you that, no matter how tumultuous life may become, inner peace can be found in each moment's breath. Imagine the cool night air slipping through a crack in your window, wrapping your skin in a tender embrace as if history itself is holding you close. Anne endured storms of splendor turned silence, of joy turned profound solitude, yet within her spirit, the light of justice and the strength of wisdom never dimmed. Tonight, when you hear distant church bells toll softly, think of them as her voice echoing through time, assuring you that truth and courage can pierce the darkest night. Some modern souls claim they feel a fleeting warmth in their rooms at midnight, as though an unseen hand gently rests upon their shoulder, whispering, "Every wound is a testament to life." Perhaps it is only the wind's playful jest, or perhaps it is Anne's presence, continuing to cradle weary hearts toward peaceful slumber. Let the radiance of justice, of love, and of reason spread like stars shimmering against a moonless sky. Though history may have raged with storms, the human heart can still be as tender as a dewy blossom, as steadfast as yew roots breaking through stone. Anne's tale, that of the French girl with a Tudor soul, may have reached its final chapter, but this lullaby lives on in breath, in dream, and in the gentle light of dawn's embrace. As sleep draws near, feel your heartbeat slow and align with the universe's pulse. Dream of white sails crossing vast oceans, of moonlit rose gardens still blooming, of that silent, wordless melody woven through Tudor mists. Each image cradles you like a gently swinging cradle, lulling you into deep, soothing rest, wishing you a tranquil slumber beneath twinkling stars and the endless lullaby of history.
My king, I meant no disrespect.